As the Texas redistricting heist drags on, the maneuverings of Donald Trump, Greg Abbott, and their fellow gremlins is having an unexpected consequence. One that is very good news for lovers of democracy. Welcome to Occupy Democrats. I'm David Reddish. As you probably know, earlier this week, a group of Democratic lawmakers fled Texas to block a scheme by Governor Greg Abbott to illegally gerrymander the congressional districts, thus creating more solid Republican districts to ensure Republicans hold on to the House of Representatives next fall. Abbott did so at the behest of Trump, who is urging other governors to do the same in their own states. The Texas Democrats fled the state to block the vote. State legislative rules command that a certain percentage of the assembly must be present for the vote to take place. Other governors, including California's Gavin Newsom and Illinois' J.B. Pritzker, have come to the aid of those Texas Democrats and have threatened retaliatory gerrymandering if the Texans move forward. Here's where things stand at the moment.
The Texas House Democrats are now leaving Illinois, where they spent the last week, and heading to California. That's according to Governor Gavin Newsom's office. This is all in an effort to block Republicans from redrawing congressional districts to give the GOP more seats in the U.S. House. This also comes as Attorney General Ken Paxton and House Speaker Dustin Burrows filed a lawsuit asking an Illinois court to enforce Texas-issued civil arrest warrants for those Democrats. In a statement, Paxton wrote, quote, "We are pursuing every legal remedy at our disposal to hold these rogue legislators accountable. Texas deserves representatives who do their jobs instead of running away at the behest of their billionaire handlers." One of the named defendants in the suit, State Representative John Busey, responded, writing, quote, "Once again, the Attorney General and now the Speaker of the Texas House are using the justice system to hunt down their political opponents and silence the voices of millions of Texans and Americans across the country." Also yesterday, Senator John Cornyn confirmed the FBI agreed to his request to locate the missing Democratic lawmakers. But former U.S. Attorney Paul Coggins says bringing in the FBI is a violation of the agency's jurisdiction.
Entirely inappropriate for the FBI to do it, and it takes them away from their mission. And it's such a nakedly partisan enterprise that I fear it's going to hurt the FBI. I mean, this is the point in which the FBI director has to look the president in the eye and say no. And if the FBI director can't do that, he's the wrong person for that job.
And the FBI declined to comment on exactly how it would help the Texas Department of Public Safety locate and return the lawmakers who broke quorum. Threats of civil arrest and expulsion aren't the only tactics being used in the effort to bring the lawmakers back to Texas either. The House Speaker is now holding their paychecks. Speaker Burrows says anyone who prevents quorum will have their direct deposit payment suspended until quorum is restored.
How does this quagmire help Democrats? Stay tuned. Up to now, of course, Democrats have faced some major headwinds in the polls. As awful as Trump and the Republicans are for democracy, the economy, civil liberties, America's image, and just about everything else, the American people have expressed frustration that no major Democratic lawmakers have emerged as leaders to push back against Trump, and that Dems in Congress have limited power to block his legislation. This kind of radical move in Texas, of all places, signals that Democrats are ready for a fight and will not back down when faced with Trump's ire. And that determination has had an unexpected consequence. New polls by CNN have some shocking news for the Republican Party and warn governors like Abbott not to rig the game.
So, we're talking about warning signs for the Republican Party, and I will just say, uh-oh for them. That is the phrase of the day, uh-oh. Democrats lead the generic congressional ballot, and you can see their lead is expanding. It's becoming bigger. Look at this in spring. CNBC, it was 2. Now it's 5. How about Ipsos? It was 1 for the Democrats. Now it's 4. How about the Wall Street Journal? It was 1, and now it is 3. So now the average lead here is 4, which is up from just about a point. That's about a 3-point move on average in the Democrats' direction. And of course, Kate Ball, when this is coming amidst the fights over redistricting, I think there are going to be a lot of people wondering, wait a minute, are Republicans wanting to change the lines because they are losing, which they absolutely are on the generic congressional ballot. At this point, Democrats are winning, Republicans are losing, and maybe they're trying to change the lines in order to give themselves a little bit more wiggle room, given what we're seeing, a clear Democratic momentum on the generic congressional ballot.
How does it break down when you look at party ID?
Okay, so this is one metric, right? The generic congressional ballot. How about party identification, right? Because the idea is if you're a Democrat, you're very likely to vote Democrat. If you're a Republican, you're very likely to vote Republican. take a look here. The party ID margin, Democrats versus Republicans. Look in quarter one of this year. Quinnipiac, Republicans had a lead of a point. Gallup, it was tight. Look at where we are now in the latest measures. Again, Democratic momentum. This is a 5-point move to the Democrats, according to Quinnipiac. Now they're up by 4 on party ID. How about Gallup? What we see is Democrats ahead by 3 points. So again, what you're seeing is clear movement towards the Democratic Party on a very key metric, because if you're identifying as Democratic, you're far more likely to vote for the Democrat. If you're identifying as Republican, you're far more likely to vote Republican. And I will note, Kate, that this is a change from last year, especially among Gallup, when Republicans held a rare lead going into the 2024 election. And that, of course, foreshadowed Donald Trump winning, foreshadowed Republicans taking the House, taking the Senate. And now, of course, Democrats are ahead here. This is a big uh-oh for Republicans as we are at the midpoint of 2025.
But you see some signs as well, even beyond polling that you've been looking at, you think could indicate.
Yeah, okay, so this is the polling, right? You're looking at party ID, you're looking at the generic congressional ballot. How about the special elections? Look at this. In the median 2025 special election so far, Democrats in these different districts, get this, they're doing about 13 points better, the median Democrat, than Kamala Harris did in those same districts last year. That is a huge movement. And last year what we saw was, in fact, when you compare the 2024 special election results back to the Joe Biden baseline of 2020, Republicans were actually doing better than they did in 2020 in those. So again, this is clear movement towards the Democrats, and we're seeing it on 3 different metrics, 2 polling and 1 in actual election results.
Very interesting. Good to see you. Thanks for coming back in, Harry.
My pleasure, Kate.
13 points. That's extraordinary, and a major boost of morale for the Democrats to keep up the fight any way they can. The American people want politicians who stand up for American values, not tariffs, not masked guards kidnapping people on the streets, not punishing free speech with deportation, not encouraging genocide in Gaza, not kowtowing to Vladimir Putin, and not covering for pedophiles. Release the dang Epstein files, man. And as good news as this is for Democrats, it's also a warning for Republicans. This train is about to drive off a cliff, and you have the option of bailing out now. To do that, stand up to Trump, call out this tin pot dictator corruption, and advocate for democracy. When you advocate for democracy, you advocate for the American people. We will keep you up to date on this ongoing mess as new developments arise. This is Occupy Democrats.